Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. Of course, we're here to talk about baseball. It's the freaking wild card for the Mets and not the NLDS yet, unfortunately. That hurts to say out loud, but we're still excited for playoff baseball for our New York fans here. Pete Kennedy, of course, is me. Joining me, the designated hitters, both of them. Been a while since we've had both of them. And first, I'm going to Andrew Calagna. What's up, my guy?
How's it going? Ready to break down topics not only on the mind of the sports world, but the nation as well. Let's rate the Super Mario Brothers trailer, my guys. I have to say, I liked Bowser's voice. I thought Jack Black did pretty well as Bowser. Chris Pratt, terrible as expected.
Can I add my thoughts on that one? Because I swear to God, I had no idea that was Jack Black. I actually thought it was Idris Elba. That's how far off I was on that.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. Alec Argento, also here. Alec, thoughts on the Mario trailer?
First of all, second of all, it's going to be fun. I'll watch it with my nephew. I'm hoping that Nintendo can build some goodwill after Detective Pikachu, which was a pretty all right movie, and then the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which are not Nintendo, but those are pretty great too. So hopefully the video game movie curse is over.
Yeah, I like that. The Sonics are very fun. Love that. And this one, I was talking to a friend of someone that you and I both know, Alec, Rich Weir over at Monsignor Farrell. And he's a big Nintendo guy in general. So I was asking his thoughts.
Nerd.
He was like, well, it's going to be animation. So it's going to be probably pretty good at minimum. I think animation usually hits home and it's going to be fine. And I was like, yeah, that takes away the opportunity for it to be so bad it's good. Because Chris Pratt as Mario has a chance to be so bad it's good.
You mean like the first Super Mario movie?
Yeah,
I love that movie.
The original live action Super Mario. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and watch like 5 minutes. You'll know exactly what we're talking about.
That's my Bowser. That's little head Bowser. That's my Bowser.
Yeah.
Hashtag not my Bowser.
That's bad. That was so bad that it's actually entertaining for a couple minutes. This though has now a floor to me. Seeing the animation, hearing most of the voices, I think there's a floor of expectation that this will be an enjoyable watch. I'm not saying it's going to knock anyone's socks off. I think it's going to be decent. I think Chris Pratt Mario is going to be by far the weirdest part of the whole thing.
Roddy Tomatoes prediction right now, I'm going to say 63%. What do you guys think?
Critic score or audience score?
Critic score. It's gonna be as mid comes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say critic score like way down, but I feel like audiences will like it. So I think there'll be like a big disparity between the two.
That's not an answer. Yeah, give me an answer.
I'll say 52 and then like 81 for the audience score.
You're not factoring in the Twitter community and like the Reddit community that's going to be like, Chris Pratt isn't doing an Italian accent. This is not my Mario, so I'm going to review bomb it, and it's going to have like a 0% before anybody actually sees the movie.
Also,
yeah, is that like a thing too? You know how like there's random situations, and I don't want to say maybe random is the wrong word, but there's situations in Hollywood and in movies where it's a character, obviously when it's of color played by someone not of color, like that's a problem. But then there's like gay characters played by gay or not gay people. There's people of accents who do other accents, like in Big Mouth.
Women rebooting the Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Like Jenny Slate obviously kind of caught a really bad thing with Big
I'm
Mouth.
going on mute, guys. I'm going on mute.
But no, what I'm saying, like, does that count now for Mario and Chris Pratt? Like, do the Italians get mad about this and say that you can't be having a guy named Pratt?
As an Italian, I think I get to represent the community. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay, there we go.
Well, as all people know, Italians are very level-headed and calm people. So I really think that there should be a really measured and mature response to this. So I'm really looking forward to the discourse.
There we go. So let's talk about some baseball here and get off the spicy meatballs. And we'll talk about the New York Mets. The Mets here obviously did not win the division, as we know. So we have to take on the San Diego Padres to get into the NL, DS and CS, etc. So all these hopes and dreams, 101 wins, obviously not all for naught, as they still are very much in it with a chance to win it, but not taking the division to the Braves stings a whole damn lot. So before we get into the specificities of the playoff matchups and the Padres and whatever, what happened over the last couple weeks here? How does it feel as Yankee fans? And Alec, can you stop choking yourself on camera here? You're making me sad.
Just an imitation of the Mets, man. What do you want from me?
I want you to expand upon that thought.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't show up, right? I mean, the offense didn't show up. The pitchers were not great, but they weren't terrible by any stretch of the imagination. The offense just did not show up. They were in those games, and the Braves treated it like the series that they knew they had to treat it as. And they came out and they showed up. I mean, go Dansby Swanson, go Matt Olson. It was awesome to see both players going three home run in every game of that series, because that's what you do when your season is essentially on the line, and you get that wild card spot and your season's on the line, because now you have to have the toughest road to to a championship in the league by having the position that the Mets are in right now. It's awesome. I loved it.
I hate you. Thank you very much. I really do. I'm not going to lie. I really do hate you. Andrew, go ahead. I'll go after you.
Yeah, no, the Mets offense really missed Starling Marte that series, and they're gonna miss him in the wild card round too. He's been really the spark plug on top of the lineup there. So it's a very big bat to be missed, but still at the same time, it's pretty inexcusable for your starters to give up like 11 runs in the biggest series of the year. And you know what, the Mets and the Braves end up with the same record, 101 wins. Is a great season, but there's how many games are you going to go back and look and say, we could have won this, or like when the Mets got swept by like the Cubs a couple weeks ago, you just win one of those games and it's a completely different story. So the Mets,
they didn't though.
They didn't, but it came down to that series. But at the same time, there were a ton of other winnable games down the stretch, and that they could have won, and they probably should have won. So it's disappointing, and now it's a real gauntlet for them to get to the World Series. So I have a
question. I have a question for you guys. First season where there's no tiebreaker game. How are we feeling about the no tiebreaker game?
Oh yeah, that sucks. That sucks for them. So no, like one.
Unbiased, I am so for I think it's kind of crazy that there was a tiebreaker game in professional baseball when no other sport does that, right? There's always tiebreakers. I'm fine with it, but I'm sure that like if you put your Mets hat on right now, like you're going to be bummed out about it, give you an extra chance. But I mean, you have 162 games to figure out what's going to happen there. I think that it makes sense. But now that it actually got put into practice, how does everyone feel there?
I'm totally fine with no tiebreaker game. I do also think that's a crazy thing. After 162 games of data, there has to be some conclusive head-to-head, and then if not, division record. If not, like if all those things are tied and like you're down to stat number 7 on the tiebreak, like, yeah, sure. Like, let's make them play. But like, that's never going to be a thing, right? So it's going to be the head-to-head. That makes sense. It's always made sense. And then after that, I think it is division record. Like, I don't love run differential in that regard. If that, not that it is one of the things, but if that is one of the things, I don't like it. But head-to-head, division record, all that stuff feels fine for me. And there's no need for a team to play 163 to then another team to go right into the wild card. It kind of sets you up in a weird path there as well. Your pitching gets all jacked up. So I'm totally fine without the tiebreaker game for the division.
Well, it's going to get a little wonky next year with the staggered schedule where, you're not playing your division rivals 19 times a year or whatever the actual numbers. I think it's 19. But yeah, so I mean, that's going to be a little weird next year when you have to do that. But yeah, in this one, I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and it's tough, and that Cubs series, Andrew, is 100% the series that I look at because, I think they lost 2 out of 3 of the Pirates in that same realm as well. That happens. You lose series to teams you shouldn't lose series to occasionally. It happens to the best teams in the league. You can't get swept by a team of that caliber. That is 100% by far the series that I look at and say, man, that one stings extra, extra hard. A team that was extremely mediocre to below average and they sweep you in a week that mattered so much. It stings that you have 101 wins, but don't win the division. But guess what? It's happened before. It'll happen again. It happened
to the Dodgers last year.
Yeah, it happened as recent as last season. So this is not like some new thing that only the Mets got screwed by. So I'm not saying woe is me. I'm not going to do that. It just sucks, frankly, to have this good of a year with expectation and now have that much harder of a road to get to the right place.
Yeah, but if you would ask again any Mets fan in March and said, "Hey, would you sign up for your team winning 101 wins?"
I said this to Pat Boyle the other day. Any team outside of the Dodgers signs up for 101 wins. Any team outside.
I think the term is yes in a cocaine heartbeat. I think that's the term.
But that's such an unfair such an unfair way to like phrase this, and it's such revisionist history because the goal this entire season when they got off to the start that they did and the Braves got off to the start that they did was, and not just the Braves but the Phillies as well and the Marlins, and you never really counted the Nationals in, but this team was different. This team was special. This team was not different, nor were they special. They were the same as the other team in this division. This is a massive disappointment. It has to be like I don't care what, like, yes, the Mets in the past you would sign up for 101 wins, whatever. You don't sign up for that. You sign up to win the division, and they did not win the division. This is not, you cannot look at this and say, oh, well, let's throw our hands up and say it is what it is. It's not. It's a gigantic failure and a disappointment. It has to be viewed that way.
This is where I vehemently disagree with you. It's because the Braves were on a ridiculous pace. That is the only reason that I don't look at it as an absolute failure. I don't look at it as a win either. I'm disappointed, but to call it an absolute failure acts like they collapsed and didn't make the playoffs at all. Like, that's what you're making it seem like.
No, it's a failure to have the division the entire season.
In the second half of the year, they played at a 95 win pace. The Braves played at a 114 win pace. They were over 20 games over 500 and lost 9 games in the standings. How often does that happen? How are you going to say the Mets are
last year too?
What did you say?
It happened in the Mets last year too.
Well, the Mets were nowhere near that far above 500 last year. Nowhere near it. They fell apart. Last year, they actually collapsed.
Sure.
This year, they didn't collapse. They choked games in the end of the year. There's a difference there. They played good baseball from start to finish. They played way above average baseball from start to finish.
You don't think that putting the money onto that team, the money that they put into that team, you think they signed up for a wild card? You think expectations were to sign up for a wild card? Do you think
I think that Steve Cohen a failure is ridiculous?
I think it absolutely. Would you say a Yankee season that ends up in them being in a wild card is a failure? Because I would. And that's what the Yankee seasons have been the past 6 years. They've been failures.
No, because if they go to a wild card game and then win the DS and then make to a World Series, is that a failure too?
But they're not going to because of the path that they have now, because they did not win the division. They're not going to. There's no chance that the Mets now win the World Series. No chance.
Incorrect.
Oh, man, come on.
There's no chance that a wild card team
not with that path. I'm not saying that wild card. First of all, it's a different format now. There's more points of failure that they're going to have. Granted, the way that they set up the wild card round that they did this year, where the better team gets 3 home games, that's the way it should happen. And realistically speaking, in a situation like the Mets are in, they will win that wild card round. But going forward, their path is ridiculous. And they've already shown that they have not played at the same level as the Braves for the past half of the year. And the Dodgers are a class of their own in the league right now, not just the NL, in the league. So there's no way. And then they have to go play either the Yankees or the Astros, who are also better than the Mets.
Well, listen, are the odds in their favor? No, they're the 3rd ranked team right now based off the odds by a good margin, right? So the Cardinals are also in a division. They're in the same wild card round. Right now, Dodgers plus 170, Braves plus 225, Mets plus 500. There's a big gap there. There's definitely a much, much harder route for the Mets to make it to the World Series. 100%. I get that. But to say that there's no chance is silly to me, because they still would have had to beat the Dodgers anyway. And if they beat the Dodgers, there is a reason to believe they have a chance to beat the Braves. So why is there no chance for them to win? You have so much confidence they're going to beat the Padres. They would have had to beat the Dodgers anyway. So whether it's in the second series and they have one more,
you also lose home field advantage against the Braves too.
They wouldn't have had home field advantage against the Dodgers either way.
No, of course not the Dodgers, but you lose it against the Braves too. How did the Mets play against?
Well, if it was flipped, they would play either the Mets or the Braves or the Dodgers. It wouldn't be both. But this way, they have to play.
Right.
Theoretically, they have to play both.
100%. But either way, if they face the Dodgers, which we expect them to have to face the Dodgers at one point, no matter what, they would have not had home field advantage. So you're telling me if they beat the Padres like you predicted, and you said it's obvious that they're going to beat the Padres, which we'll talk about that in a minute. If they beat the Dodgers, you're saying they have no chance in a 7-game series against the Braves?
I'm not saying they don't have a chance against the Braves.
You just said they have no chance.
No, I said that's not what I said. I said they will not have a chance. They will not have a chance based off of the path that they have. They may sneak past around there. They may get to the NLCS. They may get to wherever. They have the buzzsaw at every level of this problem. Even in this wild card round, they have the worst matchup. It is what it is. They will not get that lucky where they will beat every one of the teams that are better than them. It's just not going to happen.
You just said two different things, by the way. You said they have no chance. And then when I asked you,
they don't have a chance.
If they beat the Dodgers in round 2, which would have been the same exact no home field.
I said they had no chance for the World Series. I never said they had no chance to win a round.
But now I'm saying if they beat the Dodgers, do they have a chance to beat the Braves in the NLCS?
No.
If they make it to the NLCS?
No. They're also at a disadvantage, too, going into that ALDS because you have to – you're only going to get – what is it? I'm just trying to do the math here. You're only going to get Scherzer and DeGrom for a start, right? Because
the thing is they're talking about potentially it depends. It all really depends on what happens game 1 of the DS series. So let's say Scherzer goes out and shoves. I think the Mets plan would be to put in Bassett game 2 and hopefully just sweep the 2 games and then have DeGrom ready for the NLDS. Or the NLDS versus the Dodgers.
That would be a ballsy way to go.
It would be that would be the galaxy brain way. But I honestly think that's how they're going to handle it. Especially with him saying that Scherzer's going the first game. So obviously in any other regular series it would be DeGrom, but by saying it's going to be Scherzer, I'm pretty sure that's the route they're going to take.
And
it really depends on if they get the win or not. And if they don't get the win, obviously you're going to throw DeGrom on the mound, to save your season. But I really think that's the way they're going to go. It really depends on if they win game 1 or not.
Another part of the equation with that pitching rotation is the blisters on DeGrom's fingers. He's got blisters on his fingers. If that move is made, it could be a dual move of saying, hey, maybe this gets DeGrom to the DS instead of having to pitch game 3, but also it gives him one more day of recovery if the blisters are that much of a problem. So it's twofold on the pitching rotation. But you are right. It does mess up the pitching. It 100% does. And the Dodgers will be rested and they'll have their 1, 2, 3, whatever. So yes, you are 100% right on that front. I'm just not here to say that if somehow the Mets beat the Dodgers, they're all of a sudden going to have zero chance against the Braves. They've played each other a ton this year. The Braves have had the better of them in the past 2 series, but it's not like the Mets haven't played with them before. Right in the midst of the Braves' incredible run, they went and took 4 out of 5 from the Braves. Yeah, there's been 2 Braves series since then that they lost, but I'm sitting here saying it's possible for them to hang with the Braves too.
I don't know how you could say that now that they have home field advantage. Now that all the other factors of they'd have to get past the Dodgers, they're going to get beat up after the Dodgers series. They're going to get beat up after the Padres series. They're going to be on a weird pitching schedule, most likely, because I don't think that they would be ballsy enough. If they do, that's a different story. But you just got out of a series where they were home. They whooped your asses. And now you're going to go back and have them have home field advantage in that series after coming off all those other gigantic different issues that they would have to even get to that point. I don't see how you could say that they would have any possibility to do that. And if they somehow by miracle get past there, they would still have to play either the Yankees or the Astros, who are also incredibly good baseball teams and who are teams that are hot at the right time and are healthy at the right time too. So I just don't they have the most difficult path to winning a World Series by far out of anybody who's a legitimate contender. I'm not including the Phillies or anything like that. I just don't see how there's any way that they could do it. And my original point, and I'll finish it up here, but my original point was they are not going to win the World Series now. They don't have a chance. In my opinion, they have no chance at winning the World Series. And that is a failure of a season. You got to a point now where you hit a brick wall because of that. You might make a little Cinderella run and get past a round or two, but they can't win the World Series because of the path that they have. You need to have a little bit of a break. You can't go against try to slay the dragon every series, right? You need to, like, which is something I'm worried about with the Yankees, and we'll talk about that later, but that's it. And like, because they have now run into this, it's a failure of a season. And with the money that they spent and the expectations that were sent in the beginning before the season started, I think it's unequivocally a failure.
I won't go as far and say it's a failure, but I will 100% agree that they do have the toughest road to get to and win a World Series. That's an undisputed fact.
Yeah,
and I think the only way they're going to get by the Dodgers is if the Dodgers having 6 days off or come out flat-footed at the beginning of that series, and you're able to catch them off guard and have your pitching be dominant enough where the lineup is after not seeing live pitching for a bunch of days, so they're slow to adjust. So I think that's the message that's shot. And I feel like again, the Padres are they're no joke too. They got Soto, right. They have a pretty good lineup over there themselves. The starting pitching outside of Darvish is a pretty big question mark, but they're no slouches either. So it is the absolute hardest path to win a World Series out of every team in this current playoff bracket, for sure.
Well, I wouldn't say of every team, right? You have to be specific here. It's of the true contenders, right? Because we're not sitting here calling the Guardians and the Mariners true contenders for the World Series right now. So if you look at the odds specifically here, something that I find interesting is that the Mets have a plus 500 odds to win the NL. The Padres have the worst odds in the NL at plus 1,200. So I guess that obviously takes into consideration that, the Mets have a great chance to beat the Padres. So that makes their odds much harder from the get-go. But if the Padres win the series against the Mets, I guess no one's expecting them to make a move either. So Phillies, Padres, Mariners, Guardians all have less or more difficult paths than the Mets. But of the true contenders, they do have the hardest. So now for World Series odds, Dodgers plus 340, Astros 425, Braves 500, Yankees plus 550. Then there's the drop to the Mets at plus 900. Then there's another drop to the Blue Jays, 1,300, Cardinals plus 2,200. So of those top 5 teams that the Mets are in, there is a drop from the Yankees to the Mets, 4-5. 100%. The odds are much more difficult. I was just saying, to say no chance if they make it past the Dodgers is something that I'm not gonna say. So then you know what, Alec, when you get there and it's Braves, minus 250 to win the series, then you should put the house on it, because if you're that confident, So you're right. You're right that the odds are way stacked against them, but I'm not here to say they have no chance. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. We are doing that because we have to not assume the Mets are going to beat the Padres. They lost the season series to the Padres, and Darvish has been a thorn in their side as a pitcher throughout their history.
That series goes 3, by the way. That series absolutely goes 3. It's not going to be a 2-game sweep.
Right. So I don't think it's an absolute shoo-in they're going to beat the Padres. However, the odds do say that it's likely that they will. So, it is what it is on that front. Right now, the series odds for the Mets and Padres, Mets minus 175 to beat the Padres, Padres plus 145. So that's
one question. If they do that kind of wonkiness with the pitching staff for that 3-game series, that's a gamble if you put Bassett in there for 2 and expect to win, because then you really lose DeGrom, right? And you really screw up your rotation for the NLDS if you get there. Am I right? Or am I mistaking that? Or do you still get them as much as you would normally get them if he pitched on this in game 2?
On game 2. So Saturday, it would be from Scherzer would be Friday, and then the DS starting on Tuesday. That only is Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He probably can go on Tuesday, but he's probably going short rest there. And then
you don't want him going short rest after the year he's had either. Like, not that he's had a bad year, but like injuries.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the fact of the matter is they're going to need at least 1 or 2 out-of-body experiences from Cookie Carrasco or Taijuan Walker, which is not impossible, but it's definitely not likely. So let's talk about this Padres thing real quick. They had 89 wins on the season. bit of a disappointing second half for them after the trade with Juan Soto. He didn't do too much for them, and they were underwhelming, even though they're here in the playoffs and they have 89 wins. So let's talk about that specifically here. What are we looking at from the Mets lineup here? We talked about Marte not being back yet, likely not going to make it back for this wild card series at all. I think that's an absolutely huge loss. And I think it's about the displacement of the lineup as much as it is with Marte just being out as one person. It really doesn't just affect one's position here. So you take, who's been jumping into the 2 slot here. I'm drawing a blank now on the Mets here, but whoever's jumping into the 2 slot, you're not just taking away Marte, you're taking away the 6th spot or the 7th spot and making that weaker as well. So who are the guys you're looking to that have to play top tier baseball in order to, pick up the pace offensively? Because if we assume Scherzer does a job and we assume Bassett and DeGrom do a job, they're going to be in it. But they need to score some damn runs. So what offensive players here need to just jump out and do something special for this Mets offense to click?
And to answer your question, it's Lindor who's moving up from the 3 spot to the 2 spot,
Right.
at least according to roster resources on fangraphs.com. To answer your question, though, it definitely has to be Pete and McNeil. I know McNeil's coming off winning the batting title. Good for him. Him being the number 3, the theoretical number 3 hitter in that lineup. Again, not a ton of power from McNeil, but guy gets on base, guy's a high contact guy, and he has to continue to be that guy and be able to drive runners in with Nimmo and Lindor being able to get on base in front of him. So, and obviously Pete's their biggest power, threat in the lineup. If Vogelback is sitting, and I'm not sure if Alvarez is going to make the roster at and be the left-handed platoon DH. So who knows about the power. So you would have to expect your 3-4 hitters to be able to be the hitters who you thought they're going to be and who you expect them to be.
Yeah, I'm looking too at Nimmo because there's been a little bit of a surge from Nimmo of late. In the last 2 weeks, he's batting over 400. He's had 2 home runs in the last 2 weeks. When he has a little bit of pop in his bat, there's an extra juice to this lineup. And I think him and Eduardo Escobar are 2 of those others, if you will. Think about them as like a 4th or 5th guy on a basketball team. Like you need them to hit a couple threes type of thing. And I think they're going to need Escobar or Nimmo to do something special in a game or 2, whether it's them hitting a home run or something big like that, or a big double late in the game. Those guys have what it takes to swing games, and I think they're going to need to hit with some pop. Nimmo getting on base is always a blessing. He does that consistently all the time. But when he actually drives the baseball and sets those guys up after him, that's why Lindor has 107 RBIs on the season. So I'm looking at Nimmo. I'm looking at Escobar, who's definitely come around. He's played his best baseball of the season over the last month, basically, over the last 2 weeks after coming back from that injury. So those are my 2 guys I'm looking at. Hardcore, need to do something. And obviously Pete, a couple home runs from Pete never hurt. Never hurt nobody.
I think you're going to need to. I mean, this is the playoffs. You're going to need to rely on home runs to an extent, right? I think that the narrative has shifted a little bit where you can't rely on home runs in the playoffs. So now you need to have home runs in the playoffs. Also, I think we were talking about it before, but the Padres lineup is not bad at all, especially away. With Darvish, Musgrove, and Snell. And Snell, obviously, you talked about Darvish being a thorn in the Mets' side for a while, and on top of that, Snell and Musgrove, I was just looking at it, have about a 3 ERA on the road this year. So those are not bad pitchers. They're kind of similar teams to the Mets right now, and you're going to want your power hitters on a team that's kind of bereft of power hitters outside of Alonso to really step up. So Alonso and Lindor are going to have to be your guys for that series.
Yeah, and outside of Machado and lately Will Myers, it's been a bit of a struggle offensively for the Padres. Not a ton of pop, not a ton of average. It's really been.
Yeah, but guess who's coming to town? A guy who's been a Mets killer for the past couple of years, Juan Soto. He may have had a bad year so far since going over to the Padres, but he knows the Mets. He knows that pitching staff, and if there's one guy I don't want to see up against them, it's going to be Juan Soto.
Yeah, when you get into the playoffs, you throw out the stats from the regular season, and Soto could just be dominant and hit
exactly.
Yeah,
and
Soto in the postseason is a beast. The reason he absolutely carried the Nationals to the World Series, a couple years ago. So he's definitely your X factor there. And again, I really will say he was disappointing. And if there's actually a funny story, the guy who replaced him on the Nationals, his name is Joey Meneses. I don't know if anyone's heard that name around the baseball chatter from a little while ago. Yeah, he's like a 30-year-old like rookie, and he's like came up from AAA, and he like outperformed like Juan Soto like 2-1 on like every counting stat since coming up there. So that's like a fun story for the end of the baseball season. Nothing to do with the playoffs, but just know that Joey Meneses absolutely outdueled Juan Soto post trade.
And here's the thing with Juan Soto too. I mean, he only hit 6 home runs in 52 games with the Padres, batted .236. The on base was still .388. My man's eye is still elite. He doesn't strike out very much. He gets on base, and that's like the bare minimum for a stud player. So if he all of a sudden starts driving the baseball a little bit, watch out, man. Like that's dangerous. You're not going to feel comfortable facing Juan Soto in any situation. Setting the tone, setting the base paths up for guys behind him, or just driving people in. Yeah, the 236 for 52 games for Juan Soto, throw it out the window. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
He's out here to play.
Yeah, I always just think about that when it comes to the playoffs. Like people play the back of their baseball card more often than not when it comes to the playoffs, right? And he's, I don't know, there's no more level of comfort for him, I would assume, outside of Washington than New York for him to play in. I just think he's gonna have a pretty good series. I still think the Padres end up losing that, but I do think it goes to 3. But I think Soto is going to be someone you're gonna be screaming at the TV for.
Yeah, and I'm not scared of Blake Snell like at all. As a person who watched him in the AL East for a while, like I don't know, Blake Snell's like a 5 and fly pitcher, so I would definitely
screw the Yankees over for years.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched him, ever since he got taken out of that World Series game versus the Dodgers. Like he's never been the same pitcher since. Like his confidence has been like completely shot. Like he's pitched like decent. Like he has an ERA in the 3s, but like out of the 3 pitchers on that staff, I'm looking forward to seeing Blake Snell versus the Mets offense. Like if I'm a Mets hitter, that's the guy who I feel like I could tee off on pretty easily.
Yeah, I actually think it's Musgrove. I think Musgrove is a fraud. I think he's been a fraud since he went to the Padres. His stats are deceiving. I think he's just he's a product of the park over there. So it was never good in Pittsburgh. Not that says much, but I think Snell's got that playoff experience, and the Mets don't really have a lot of that on their team.
So the game 1 line is -150 for the Mets, Max Scherzer versus Yu Darvish. That's the favorite for game 1. Obviously, home field taking a bit of an advantage there. The Citi Field and 7-line army have to be strong on Friday night. It's going to be hopefully an electric atmosphere out there. The weather has turned to be decent this week. Thank God this was not being played earlier in the week. It's been a disaster here in the tri-state area. So thankfully the weather is not going to be playing a huge factor here. Maybe that helps the Padres. Maybe it doesn't. Who's to say? So let's talk now, though. Since we're done basically with the Mets, Padres, and Mets overall outlook, why don't we finish off here, guys, by running through some of the other series in the wild card and then also with some futures on the MLB playoffs in general. So let's run through the Rays and Guardians first. Right now, we have the series. The series prop here is Rays. Guardians -125 to win the series. Rays +105. We have a lean there. Do we like one team over the other?
I'm hoping it's the Guardians, but I don't know. I think the Rays in the playoffs are always a dangerous team to play. That's like when we end up talking about the Yankees, I will be terrified of the Rays if we play them in the division series. I'm not looking forward to that. My confidence level is at a 0 out of 10.
Yeah, the Yankees, and talk about a gauntlet for the Mets. Like the Yankees, in order for them to reach the World Series, they're going to have to beat every team who's kicked their asses in the playoffs, like the last bunch of years too. So, I think I like Cleveland and I like their pitching a lot, and their offense has really come around, especially in the last month or so. So they're a pretty hot team coming into the postseason. I really like Tristan McKenzie. I want to say I don't want to, that they can beat Tampa, but Tampa's You know,
Tampa's
they have
Tampa.
that playoff experience, and I feel like they'll take it 3 games, but I feel like Tampa's gonna be meeting the Yankees in the ALDS.
So there we have it. We both like the Rays, or you guys both like the Rays.
How about you?
I haven't watched more than 30 seconds of highlights of the Guardians. I'm not even going to pretend to know what the hell's going on in Cleveland. I'll go with the experience of the Rays as well. All right, back to the AL. Blue Jays minus 160 over the Mariners, plus 130 in the series. The M's break the big time playoff drought. Whole lot of energy around that in Seattle, but will it matter come to this series? Jays minus 160, Mariners plus 130.
M's heavy. M's heavy there, right there. I don't think the Blue Jays are the Yankees of the past 5 years. I've said that before the season started. They're power pitching up top that's home run susceptible. They are a home run or bust on the offense, and their bullpen sucks. That's the Yankees always had good bullpens, but like home run or bust is not great in the playoffs. You need to have home runs, but it needs to be supplemented by guys getting on base and working pitchers and things like that. I don't think the Jays are that good of a team, and I think the M's are riding a good momentum and a good train that they've been on for the past couple of weeks, and their pitching is just like, I know Alec Manoah is Alec Manoah, but I'll take the Mariners top 3 over the Jays top 3 any day of the week.
I feel like the Blue Jays have a pretty good offense that if the non-Castillo pitchers that they might be able to get to, because obviously like George Springer has been really good in the postseason. Vlad Guerrero's always dangerous. Alejandro Kirk, those are 3 pretty big bats in the lineup, and again Manoah and Gausman going, having your 1-2 of those 2 guys, that's pretty tough for me. With also, Barrios possibly is the number 3, possibly even coming out of the bullpen if Stripling's going to be starting a game. So, I will say that their bullpen is hot garbage, and if that's their big weakness there. But, if you can get by with those 3 starting pitchers in that offense, I feel like, that versus the inexperience of literally every single person on the Mariners team, I feel like I would take the Blue Jays in that series.
I'm just saying, don't sleep on my man Logan Gilbert. That guy is a stud. I feel like we're just throwing him out. That guy's an ace. You got 2 true aces on that staff.
Yeah, I think with your point about the Blue Jays being like the Yankees of years past with the home run or bust mentality offensively, I think that can get them through the wild card. And I think what happens with the Mariners, their big time energy, playing every game like it's their last to just make the playoffs in general, was taxing. And I don't know how teams always respond, keeping the juice moving into the playoffs. Maybe they got rid of all their juice just to get there. So I'd lean the Blue Jays with their opportunity to hit some home runs and put up a crooked number and kind of dominate at least one game. And then it's a 1-1 chance basically at that point. So I'm leaning Blue Jays there. Let's move over to the NL, and we'll start off with the Cardinals minus 130, the Phillies plus 110. Cardinals had their money run earlier in the season, right after the All-Star break, where they were nasty for a little while, totally tapered off, ended with 93 wins. Phillies, solid team. We kind of know what they're all about. They have a home run or bust type offense. Their pitching is weak. So what do we think? Cardinals minus 130, Phillies plus 110.
Phillies don't belong here in the playoffs. So let's go with the Cardinals. I think we're all in agreement there.
Yeah, definitely with the Cardinals. And it's funny that, Jordan Montgomery said, he was complaining about, now I'm not going to be in the playoff rotation. And guess what? You're not in the playoff rotation for the Cardinals either, buddy. So, you know what? Yankees won the trade. Let's go.
And Bader's been a revelation. I love that guy.
Oh, yeah,
he's
been fantastic.
He's awesome. Yeah.
I have a future on the Cardinals from way earlier in the year, plus 1,200 to win the NL. So in order for that bet to even have a chance, maybe even a cash out opportunity, I need them to beat the Phillies. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Let's go Cards.
Arenado, why not? Why not?
Yeah, they have good pitching and that offense. Those 2 big bats, like probably the best, maybe one of the best 1-2 punches in the National League.
And Adam Wainwright just celebrated his 91st birthday yesterday.
Yeah. And plus, man, Pujols in the playoffs too, man. He hasn't been in the playoffs in a while, but back in the day, Pujols in the playoffs was money. So,
what a sunset ride for that guy!
Oh,
what a year!
Yeah, dude, he hit more home runs this year than Freddie Freeman, if you can believe that.
It's awesome to say. This was such just a 2-second aside. This is one of the best years of baseball that I can ever remember, if not the best year of baseball. Between Pujols and Judge and this playoff format that we have going on, and like really great teams at the top. You have teams like the Orioles that were fun to watch, and I don't know. This was just such a fun year of baseball.
Yeah, Miguel Cabrera got 3,000 hits too.
Yes, he did.
Big milestone year too for a lot of teams. Just absolute one of the funniest years of baseball that I remember.
Yeah,
it's a shame that Miggy couldn't have been on a Contender as well. Just to give that juice. The Tigers are absolute trash.
That team had so many injuries.
So, all right, that's the NL and AL wildcard series. We obviously don't know the matchups of the next series. So let's jump straight through to league winners. Why not? Astros plus 175, Yankees plus 205. Big jump down to the Blue Jays at 550, Rays plus 950, Guardians and Mariners way down below. AL, is it the Astros division or conference or whatever league to lose? Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're that good, right? The Astros are that good?
I don't even think it's that, because their record is inflated by the division that they play in and everything like that. Like, I think apples to apples, you could say the Yankees and the Astros are just as good as themselves. They're in the Yankees' head. And Justin Verlander is certainly in the Yankees' head, and he's having the best season of his career somehow. And he's going to come in and he's going to set the tone, and it's going to be bad news bears for the Yankees if they get past the Rays, which is something that very much concerns me. So, we'll see how it gets there. But I think it's Astros' year to lose, and also repeat World Series winners don't happen in baseball. So I think it's going to be the Astros who win it this year too, which is a bummer.
True.
Ugh, yuck city. That
do you disagree though?
No, I want to. I want to. But I think it's gonna have to go if the Yankees are going to make a run here. And I could see it, and I could definitely see a world maybe I couldn't see it 2 months ago when the Yankees were playing like hot garbage. But I feel like they've gotten healthy. The Yankees have gotten healthy at the right time. So I'm going to go the homer pick, and I'm picking the Yankees.
Not with their bullpen. Their bullpen ain't healthy.
No, it's not. And, and the guys that are healthy are pretty shaky. So, but at this point, you're at the, in the short series that where you can throw in. You could kind of do what the Astros did the last couple of years. Yeah, you can throw those guys out of the bullpen at 2-3 innings apiece to try to make up any kind of gaps in the starting rotation. So I would hope Aaron Boone would learn from his previous mistakes and get there. So I'm going to take the super optimistic homer pick, and I'm going to pick the Yankees.
All right, I just want to talk about one thing. I'm still taking the Astros. This is a different Yankees team. This is very much a different Yankees team than it's been for the past 5 years. Your starting rotation is a top 5 rotation in baseball, and 2 of those guys are going to go into your bullpen. You're going to get Domingo Germán in there, who's been very good. Like, for what he is, he's not an ace or anything like that, but for what he is, going into the bullpen, he'll be good in the bullpen. Same thing for Tyone. You can hide some of their weaknesses in the bullpen a little bit. That can potentially bridge what you lose in Marinaccio and Clay Holmes. Is King out for the series?
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah. Well, I know we're starting to get random people back that we didn't think we were getting back, but that's two people that you get in there. I don't know who's closing. I don't know who's closing in the playoffs for the Yankees. I don't think anyone does. And I don't want Chapman, who's the likely person who's going to end up doing it, just because
I don't even know if Chapman's going to make well, I didn't think Chapman was going to make the playoff roster, but now with the Marinaccio injury, I feel like he has, like, who are you going to pick instead of him? Weissett or whatever his name is. So it's just like that's how bad the injury's gone, that the guy who's walking the world right now and who hasn't shown you anything in the past like 6 months, that he's going to make your playoff roster. So that's how
Chichi Gonzalez is back on the menu, boys. Chichi Gonzalez.
That's the guy you get wrong in like the team Sporkle quiz at like the end of the year. It's just like you 100% don't remember. Like, the only reason they put up the 22 Yankees season, the only reason I remembered Chichi Gonzalez because he started the game like 2 days ago. In like 3 months, I will not remember who this guy was and played for the Yankees.
So you still want to pick the Yankees, Drew?
Yeah, I do.
Very
I
well.
believe.
I kind of agree with Alec's train of thought. The Astros have been the standard in the American League for the entire – well, not the entire year. Yankees were the standard for a while. Since they took claim of the standard, they have not looked back, and I do kind of feel like it's their year. And, Yordan Alvarez, what a scary man.
I will say you can book whoever comes out of the AL wins the World Series. That's my take. If it's the Yankees or the Astros, whoever gets the World Series, no doubt in my mind that they're winning the World Series.
There you go. Well, that makes you feel pretty good about some possibilities of gambling on that, Al. There's some.
How can I take AL to win already?
Plus 105, the winning league, American League. They have the National League as the favorite to get the winner.
Oh yeah, no, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week because I think the Braves are going to get hot and go to the World Series again. I think they're going to lose.
If you want to combine the Mets and Yankees, you can go plus 275 on New York being the winning state.
I'd kill myself if the Yankees play the Mets in the World Series. I couldn't handle it. My heart could not handle that. I have talked so much shit. Like,
yeah, you really have. You have
the possibility of that happening. Like, I know it happened in 2001, and I'm sure Mets fans feel the same way. Like, they don't want to play the Yankees in the World Series.
Oh, I kind of do.
I couldn't handle it. Like, if that ever happened, I would not be able to function on the day. I'd have to go into hiding. I'd break my phone in half or something like that.
The amount of texts that we've gotten. Because we're both in the chat with you, me and Drew and you, but it's really at me. I mean, it's kind of Drew is a bit of a Mets fan deep down.
No, it's mostly a Drew, actually. No, Drew's a Mets fan. It's mostly a Drew.
Shut up. I don't want to hear it. And frankly, every time
look at my name, Drew's not allowed at the parade for a reason. Okay,
Yankees win the AL and you didn't. So who's really not allowed at the parade?
That's a good point. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
That is a good point. And every time you send that emoji with the eyes looking up, like I seethe. I seethe looking at.
I didn't send it when they actually overtook it though.
Because every time a Braves person got a hit, you were texting Olsen, Riley, Swanson. I was so.
There were a lot of hits. There were a lot of hits in that series.
I was so mad. I honestly want the Mets to win for me as much as I want them to win to just put it in your face. Yeah, really at that point. You're my arch enemy.
You should want that. Yeah, I
don't know if I'm your enemy, but you are mine.
Well, I people don't understand this, but the Mets are my most hated sports team. I hate the Eagles, I hate the Red Sox, I hate whoever. I hate the Mets more than any other team in professional sports by a country mile. Mets, Red Sox, I'm taking the Red Sox 100 times out of 100.
That's terrible.
Thank God that we like the Knicks together and we like the Giants together. Otherwise, I'm not sure we could be friends. I'm not sure that we could be friends.
But I don't hate the Nets and the Jets as much as I hate the Mets.
I'm just saying. I don't care. God forbid I was an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan or something like that. Then we literally couldn't be friends. I don't think.
No, I have a lot of Eagles. I have a lot of Philly trash friends who root for the Eagles. So
Oh man! All right. So for the National League, the odds are Dodgers plus 170. I already covered these before. Braves plus 225 and Mets plus 500. Cardinals 950. Phillies and Padres a little farther down, 1100, 1200. What's the pick for the National League, fellas?
Braves.
True.
Dodgers.
Unfortunately,
chalk.
I'm going Braves as well. That lineup's so fucking good. That lineup is so good.
Do we think Dansby stays, or do you think he takes one of those hometown deals that the Braves just magically pull off every year, or do you think he goes somewhere else?
Last year, right?
Wow.
Freeman didn't take it.
Well, there was that's a whole situation where we don't know if he actually heard about that offer or not from his agent. That's widely debated.
That is true. So we shall see. I think the Braves lineup is just so scary, and as good as the Dodgers are, they can be had in the playoffs, as any team could be had in the playoffs. Historically, they've been had more times than they haven't recently. So I'm going Braves. I think the Braves make it to the World Series and lose to the Astros. That's my pick. That's probably a chalky-ish pick, but not completely chalky. So
I don't think it's hard not to be chalky with this playoff format, right? Like there's just it's so top heavy.
The odds are stacked against the lower levels. It really is. Like for the Cardinals and Mets to make a move here and really do it, the Cardinals probably have a decent job or decent chance beating the Phillies, as we had discussed. Then they have to beat the Braves and possibly the Dodgers, right? Like Now, granted, there's always weird worlds where the Mets beat the Dodgers and the Cardinals beat the Braves, and all of a sudden it's Mets Cardinals NLCS. And you're like, what? How did this even happen? But that's unlikely, obviously.
Do we like, now that it's happened, or I know it hasn't happened yet, but do we like the new playoff format? I kind of love it. I think it's awesome.
It does put a good emphasis on the division. It does.
I'm still not a fan of the extra teams in there. I feel like, I don't know, if this is the expanded playoffs, I don't want any more teams to get in after this. I feel
That's
like
fair.
12 teams is still a lot. I would have preferred the old format over the new one, but the way that things have shaken out on the first year, I think it's a best case scenario for Major League Baseball. So it's exciting for sure. We'll see down the road if too many teams getting in, or if there's more mediocrity getting in at the end. So, but so far so good. But I will say that the Dodgers, man, your top 4 hitters of Betts, Turner, Freeman, and Will Smith are like, that's like one of the best 1 through 4 you could possibly have.
How about their 5 through the 9 though?
Yeah, but you still have Justin Turner, you still have Gavin Lux and Chris Taylor.
What have they done this year? They've done nothing.
Justin Turner's had a pretty good year. Gavin Lux is not a power hitter, but he still got on base at 350 a clip. And Chris Taylor is
someone who complains about IKF all the time, the 1 weak link we have in our lineup, to excuse 5 spots in that lineup that can't hit, I think is kind of crazy.
I don't know. There's like 2 guys in that lineup who can't hit. Max Muncy he did his best Joey Gallo impression this year. Like when Joey Gallo was good. Oh yeah. Well, Joey Gallo's on the bench now. And Cody Bellinger's batting 9th. What a fall from grace that guy's had. Yep. Former NL MVP, like consensus NL MVP, to like probably non-tender candidate at the end of the season. Yeah.
Juice balls, wall scrapers, and then that went away.
And smoking so much weed that he just looks dumbfounded in the dugout every chance he gets.
And I gotta say this before we go, because we're gonna end up now in a second. I don't know what would make me happier as a Mets fan who hates Alec. What would hurt you more? Let me ask this way:
Mets winning.
No,
Mets winning the Super Bowl.
That's not one of the options. What would hurt you more? Losing to the Astros again in the championship series, or Joey Gallo having a key role for the Dodgers against the Yankees in the World Series?
Oh, I don't give a fuck about Joey Gallo. I like the guy. I felt bad. I've never felt bad for a guy who came to New York and couldn't perform. That guy, you saw it in his eyes.
It hurt.
He could not. Yeah. And like when he left and hearing what he was saying, I think like New Jersey.com, NJ.com did an interview with him. It was heartbreaking to read that. I wish that guy nothing but the best. I hope he does well. He is what he is. He's never going to change. But losing to the Astros is significantly worse. And the worst case scenario again is losing to the Mets in the World Series, or really just the Mets winning the World Series in general, and any year ever, if that ever happens, which I don't think it will. But
I feel like the juicier story would be Gallo beating the Yankees in the World Series. And I was very sympathetic on Joey Gallo until he said that New York apartments were too small and he couldn't find an affordable place to live on his $10 million salary.
I didn't hear that.
All right, that's where you lost me. That's get the fuck out of here. That's where.
Hey, rent was really high. Rent was really high for a bit. They were doubling it. They were price gouging.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I feel like that's the juicier story, but it would hurt me more for the Yankees to lose to the Astros yet again in the American League Championship Series.
Yeah, that would sting. All right, so we got our answer. All right, guys, any last words before we say goodbye? We're going to be back, by the way, to talk before the Yankee series. We obviously didn't spend as much time on the Yankees today. That's because we have some time before their series takes place. So stay tuned. After week 5, we will be focused and locked in, hopefully, on 2 New York baseball teams. Hopefully, right?
So my last word is that the new She-Hulk episode kind of slaps. It was awesome. Daredevil's in it. It's awesome.
Oh, he finally showed up?
Ooh. Yeah, he finally showed up, Drew. Yeah. I'm waiting for the comment.
I haven't. Did he say it's devil time and then wink at the camera and then and then twerk around?
Yeah, he did a what are those, and he said that just happened in succession. And I think they fixed the CGI for this episode too. It actually looked good. Not great, but like good.
Better. Yeah. I mean, She-Hulk in She-Hulk form, talking has been a problem for most of the series. And if they fix that, it means they've had more time to finish these episodes, a little more budget towards the end as they work to master her CGI when she'll be in movies. Obviously, once she's in a movie, it'll be much better. So yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens in She-Hulk. I'm excited to watch that episode now. Alec, thank you for that.
I love
Drew,
that.
any last words?
Is this the last episode of She-Hulk? Is that the
No,
season finale?
penultimate.
Okay. No, I don't really have anything else to say. It was a pleasure to speak with the two of you. I mean, it's been a minute, boys. I really enjoyed the chat.
Great season by you guys. And it's been fun, and hopefully we have another season, fully fledged to go, a little playoff season with some runs. I'm asking for a run from the Mets. I'm trying to manage expectations. I want one series at a time.
Oh, and don't forget to thank your sports gods for October happening again, because now you get football, basketball, and baseball all happening at once. I don't know if hockey starts.
And hockey. I was going to say for Drew, hockey starts as well.
Yeah, but it's that time of the year again. So, pray up to the sports gods.
The most overwhelming time to be a sports podcaster who covers more than one sport.
Let's go Knicks.
Absolutely brutal. We'll be talking Knicks at some point too in the future, basketball as well. But stay tuned for that baseball stuff next week. Drew, last word. Sorry, not Drew. Alec, last word. Giants, any chance against the Packers in London?
I don't know, man. It's obviously on paper, no, but it's in London, and like 9:30. It's anything can happen in a stadium like that. And if you're asking if there's a chance, yes, because the Patriots almost won that game that they had last week against the Packers with an almost identical situation on their third string quarterback. Daniel Jones looks like he's playing. We got Landon Collins back this week, which is awesome to hear. Last time he was in London, he had, I think, 2 picks, and one of them was a pick 6 in 2016. So there's a chance, a very, 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 very small chance.
Do you buy the Odell came and like worked out thing?
Yeah.
Like,
he did. It's official.
He did?
He's
it wasn't
a lot of teams, so
it wasn't an official workout though. It was just like he was like at the facilities and talking. I'd love to bring Odell back. It can't be worse than like David Sills. But next year when we have cap space again, we can sign some receivers or draft something.
Yeah, we'll see. Odell's been meeting a lot of teams, so I'm not reading too much into it just yet. All right, we just finished this part of the episode talking baseball, and the Colts and Broncos just tied 9-9 with 5 seconds left. They're going to overtime. I'm thrilled. I didn't watch that game, and I podcasted instead. All right, guys. Alec, Argento, Andrew Calagna, I'm Pete Kennedy. Thanks for the entire season. Thanks for tonight. And also stay tuned now. If you're on the podcast app, NFL Week 5 picks coming up now. Great time to be a sports fan, as Alex said. So thank you for listening. Subway Sports Talk. Stay tuned on the podcast app for NFL picks on YouTube. Click over to that video. Cheers.
See ya.